Did we break 4?
Our season is 4,175.4.
Halfway there.
Not bad.
No, but 2 straight weeks of decline.
We get those numbers back up there, hopefully.
The Klondike is no place for the weak, and gold mining in this unforgiving land doesn't leave room for error. Parker Schnabel knows that all too well. Each season is a gamble, a race against time and terrain. This year, however, Parker's operation has been pushed to the edge. Massive overburden, broken down equipment, and unpredictable weather have thrown wrench after wrench into his carefully laid plans. With gold targets looming and deadlines slipping, Parker has made a bold decision, one that could either make or break his entire season. The arrival of massive dirt haulers might just be the lifeline his operation desperately needs. Mining is a numbers game. You move more dirt, you get more gold. But when your machines are already running at full capacity and you're still falling behind, the only way forward is to bring in bigger, better equipment. Parker's existing fleet, while reliable, simply isn't fast enough to keep up with the volume he needs. The cut he's working on is deeper than expected, the overburden is thicker, and the crew is constantly battling breakdowns. It's not just about speed, it's about efficiency, power, and endurance. That's where the dirt haulers come in. These aren't just any trucks. We're talking about behemoths, machines built to move mountains. When they rolled onto Parker's claim, the ground shook beneath their weight. Towering more than 2 stories tall and capable of hauling hundreds of tons in a single load, these dirt haulers are a game changer. For Parker, they represent more than raw power, their hope on wheels. They could mean the difference between hitting his gold goal or ending the season in the red. The logistics of bringing in such massive equipment are staggering. These trucks didn't just drive up from the local dealership. They had to be disassembled, transported on multiple flatbeds, and reassembled on site. That meant shutting down parts of the operation to clear space, dedicating crew members to the setup, and ensuring everything was perfectly calibrated before even one rock was moved. But time is money, and every hour spent prepping these machines had to pay off in truckloads of dirt and ounces of gold. As the first hauler fired up and rolled into the pit, all eyes were on its performance. Would it deliver on its promise? The initial results were promising. With a single pass, it carried more material than 3 of Parker's older trucks combined. Haul times were slashed, fuel efficiency improved due to fewer trips, and the pressure on the rest of the fleet began to ease. The ripple effect was immediate. Wash plant feed rates increased, downtime dropped, morale lifted. But mining isn't just about the machines, it's about the people who operate them. Parker's crew had to adjust quickly. These dirt haulers weren't just bigger, they were more complex. Operating them required a new level of precision and awareness. A single mistake could damage equipment worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Parker brought in specialists, seasoned operators who had run these giants before. They trained the team, ran safety drills, and helped integrate the haulers into daily operations. There were growing pains. One of the haulers blew a hydraulic line within the first few days, halting production and requiring a full day of repairs. Another operator misjudged a corner, nearly tipping the truck on a soft shoulder. But these setbacks were minor compared to the gains. Within a week, the haulers had doubled the amount of pay dirt reaching the plant. Parker, always thinking several steps ahead, started recalculating his gold projections. With the new haulers in place, he had the potential to open up an entirely new section of the claim that had previously been out of reach due to hauling limitations. It was a risk, but one worth taking. He moved quickly, shifting crews, rerouting haul roads, and preparing the wash plant for increased throughput. The clock was ticking, but for the first time all season, Parker had the upper hand. Even veteran miners in the Klondike were impressed. Word spread fast about the scale of Parker's haul trucks. Other operations stopped by just to see them in action. The sight was something out of a mining enthusiast's dream, giant machines carving through permafrost, lifting earth like it was powder, thundering across the site with the kind of power that rewrites what's possible in placer mining. And while the machines were the stars, the strategy behind their deployment was just as critical. Parker had always been a student of the game, learning from every setback, every slowdown, every ounce missed. Bringing in these dirt haulers wasn't just a show of force, it was a calculated move. He knew that spending big upfront could save him from a financial collapse later in the season. There's a psychological shift when new machines arrive, especially on a struggling operation. The crew begins to believe again. They push harder. They take pride in the power they command. For Parker, this morale boost was just as valuable as the tons of dirt being moved. His crew was re-energized, focused, and hungry for results. They were no longer just trying to survive the season, they were ready to dominate it. With the haulers now integrated into the daily workflow, Parker began to think about optimization. It wasn't just about running the trucks nonstop, it was about coordinating every moving part of the operation to match their new pace. That meant refining the load and haul system, minimizing idle time, and ensuring the wash plant could keep up with the increased material. To do this, he brought in an experienced foreman from a larger-scale industrial mine, someone who had overseen operations with fleets of massive equipment. This decision quickly paid off. New systems were implemented, haul roads were widened and reinforced, and a dispatch system was introduced to better manage truck cycles. Efficiency soared. This was Parker at his best, thinking big, taking risks, and backing his decisions with hard work and sharp execution. But despite the improved workflow, challenges still lurked. The deeper Parker dug, the more he realized just how rich this cut could be. The gold was there, no question, but so were obstacles. Boulders the size of small cars had to be broken down. The ground became unstable in places, forcing additional reinforcement and more cautious digging. The cost of progress increased with each foot of depth, but so did the potential payoff. As weeks passed, Parker found himself in a race against time and against nature. The temperature began to drop. Fall was creeping in, and with it came shorter days and colder nights. The threat of an early freeze-up loomed over the entire operation. If the ground froze before he could reach the bottom of the cut, it would trap untold ounces of gold beneath a layer of ice and rock. The kind of loss could wipe out all the gains made by the new haulers. So Parker pushed harder. Double shifts became the norm. Maintenance crews worked overnight to keep the haulers in peak condition. Fuel usage skyrocketed. Parts were flown in by emergency delivery, and every minute was accounted for. The entire site became a coordinated machine of its own, driven by urgency and the vision of hitting the season's goal. Parker himself barely slept. He bounced from the pit to the plant to the fuel depot, checking progress, motivating the crew, and handling breakdowns. This was his operation, and failure wasn't an option. Meanwhile, the wash plant was seeing a dramatic uptick in gold recovery. With more pay dirt coming through, the gold totals began to climb fast. Day after day, pans came back shining with promise. The cleanup totals told the story best. What used to be a modest yield turned into trays lined with chunky nuggets and dense black sand. Spirits soared. Every cleanup became a celebration, not just of gold, but of teamwork, perseverance, and smart decision-making. But success didn't go unnoticed. Other miners in the region began to feel the pressure. Equipment suppliers were suddenly booked solid as neighboring operations tried to scale up. The competition became fierce. Prices for parts, fuel, and even labor started to rise. Parker had to act quickly, locking in supply contracts and securing backup equipment before shortages hit. His ability to stay ahead of the curve became just as important as the gold in the ground. There was another benefit to the haulers that few had anticipated. They opened the door to mining previously inaccessible terrain. With their massive capacity and high ground clearance, they could tackle rougher, more uneven haul roads. Parker began scouting areas that had once been dismissed as too difficult or uneconomical to mine. With the new machinery in place, those areas suddenly became viable. It was a long-term play, but one that could secure future seasons and put his operation miles ahead of the competition. And then came the real test. Midway through the season, the largest storm in years rolled into the Klondike. Heavy rains turned haul roads into mud pits. Crews scrambled to divert water, shore up roads, and prevent equipment from getting stuck. Several smaller operations were forced to shut down temporarily. But Parker's site kept running. The haulers, built for extreme conditions, plowed through the muck with minimal slowdown. The decision to invest in these machines was proving itself again, not just in volume, but in resilience. After the storm passed, cleanup totals reached a new high. It wasn't just about the gold anymore. It was about what the team had overcome to get it. Mudslides, breakdowns, fatigue, it had all been worth it. The operation was back on track, stronger than ever, with Parker already setting his sights on next year's goals. He started planning to bring in even more of these heavy-duty haulers, along with upgrades to the wash plant and pit expansion. The success of this bold move had reshaped how he viewed the future. There's a unique energy that flows through a mining crew when everything starts clicking. It's more than teamwork. It's a shared belief that the impossible is within reach. The arrival of the massive dirt haulers had reignited that belief. For Parker and his crew, it was about more than just equipment. It was about survival, ambition, and legacy. They weren't just pulling gold from the ground. They were building something lasting. By now, the dirt haulers had become more than just machines. They were symbols of a turning point. Every load they carried wasn't just rock and gravel. It was momentum, moving Parker's entire operation toward a level of productivity he hadn't seen since his earliest breakout seasons. The crew had adapted fully, turning potential into performance. Efficiency across the board had doubled. Parker's gut decision to bring them in had not only paid off, it had elevated his mine into a whole new league. The final weeks of the season were a blur of motion. Daylight was scarce, but the lights from the haulers and loaders lit up the night like a bustling city. The operation ran around the clock with machines roaring, wash plant churning, and cleanup totals steadily rising. And then, as the last few strips of pay dirt were pushed through, Parker called for one last massive cleanup. This wasn't just about seeing what they'd earned. It was about validating every risk, every sleepless night, every bolt turned in the bitter cold. As the sluice trays were emptied and the concentrate was processed, the gold began to pile up. The results were staggering. It wasn't just a successful season, it was Parker's most lucrative to date. The gamble had paid off far beyond expectations. The dirt haulers had allowed him to mine deeper, faster, and more efficiently than ever before. He had broken past his limits and shattered the expectations of even his most skeptical critics. The final tally confirmed what the team had suspected all along. This wasn't just a recovery from a rough start. It was a triumph. The total ounces pulled from the ground put Parker ahead of his goals, giving him a record-breaking finish and a massive profit margin. His strategy to go big had redefined what was possible for a single-season mining operation in the Yukon. But more than just numbers, the season proved something deeper. It proved that when backed into a corner, with time running out and failure looming, Parker could still find a way to rise. It proved that bold decisions, like bringing in massive dirt haulers when others might downsize, could completely change the trajectory of a season. And it proved that, even after years in the Klondike, Parker Schnabel was still evolving, still learning, and still ready to push boundaries. As winter began to settle over the Yukon, and the machines were shut down and prepped for the freeze, the crew gathered one last time before heading home. It was more than a wrap-up. It was a celebration, not just of gold or gear or goals met. It was a celebration of grit, of growth, and of what's possible when you match vision with action. And for Parker, Already looking ahead to the next season, the lesson was crystal clear. Bigger risks bring bigger rewards. The dirt haulers may have arrived as a desperate move to save a struggling operation, but they left as the defining power behind one of the greatest mining comebacks the Klondike has ever seen.